Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the Linux edition, and these are recorded live Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to catch the show live, see all the fun stuff going in between. For example, today we showed some photos that I snapped last night of the northern lights down here in central Pennsylvania. Beautiful, beautiful photos. So you'll have to go and watch the live replay for that, or hey, join us live next time for some of that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's go ahead and get on into the Linux news today. First, we have according to OMG Ubuntu, if you're an Ubuntu gamer, the Steam Snap Store now runs better than ever. This was an interesting article to me because if you remember a few months back, Steam came out and said, hey, you probably don't want to run Steam as the Snap. Now, the Snap package is unofficial, which means that Valve does not put together the Snap package. I believe it's put together by Snapcraft, which would be the owners of Snap. So it's not like it's insecure. The problem is that Steam needs to access too many different resource libraries, and snaps are A, routinely slow, and B, do have some permission issues here and there. And so this caused some serious degradation issues with the Steam Snap a couple of months back when we talked about if you're gaming on Ubuntu, it's probably better to run the deb package than the Snap. Now, they're saying that, and people are saying that with the latest update 24.10 of Ubuntu, not 16.10, 24.10. Yes, I had a major error on my thumbnail because my brain was fried last week. But I did fix. I did fix that on Monday morning, or was it Monday or Tuesday when my brain came back. In that edition, there were a few changes made to how snaps work, which caused them to run, in general, a whole lot faster. Now, some of this is we have more flexibility in accessing things outside of the sandbox with the new security center, which is installed by default on Ubuntu 24.10. The other factor is that they have changed how the AppArmor restrictions are done in order to basically make snaps work a whole lot better. However, the security is still good in the system, and so that is certainly something that is in mind there. So allegedly, I haven't seen, there's no comment here from Valve. It being as that there was an issue in the past where Valve was telling people don't run the Snap. It would have been really good if OMG Ubuntu reached out to Valve for a comment. I didn't see one here in the article, but give it a try. If you like snaps, you like Ubuntu, and you're a gamer, give it a try and let us know how the results are. So allegedly that's going to work. We do have an upgrade to Elementary OS coming out. Of course, the Elementary OS kind of didn't go on a pure hiatus, but there was a little bit of a shakeup in the last couple of years, and development went really slow. There wasn't a lot of major changes in Elementary OS 7. But the Elementary OS 8 is looking to do a lot more things. They're working on this, and the beta release will be coming out soon. This is based on Ubuntu 24.04, the latest LTS with the Linux kernel 6.8, which is a little bit of an older Linux kernel, although I don't know if that's the LTS or not. I can't remember. But they do have a number of different changes, and some of these I thought were good, but I do have some serious questions still because the Elementary OS for me, I've not classically liked it. Number one, I just don't like the Apple-like UI. It is clearly designed to be an Apple clone. Some of the early documentation suggested that, although they backtracked probably in response to their threats or fear of threats from the Big Apple, not New York, the one in the Infinity Lane, whatever. But it very clearly is supposed to be an Apple knockoff, and I just don't like the Apple UI. So that's a personal preference. But there were several technical levels that I didn't like about Elementary. It tended to lock you out. It tended to prevent you from using your system the way you wanted to use it, and then it tended to give you warnings in places it shouldn't. And so those are some of the technical reasons I classically have not liked Elementary OS 8. So I want to see what happens with 8. So first we have operating system updates are now, they have one basic place in there where you can update the operating system, hardware, firmware, and drivers. That is really good. So awesome to see that type of stuff. And I guess we have an automatic update system. So you can, I guess there's a way here where it will ask you, would you like to do updates on a shutdown? We have a welcome screen we worked for better accessibility, so easier to read, easier to work through with accessibility options, which we are starting to see a lot of positive changes in the accessibility world in Linux. And so that's actually really good. And then we have the lock screen refinements, just bringing the lock screen back up, which isn't it? I don't remember. Does this look like Apple or not? I can't remember how this looks related to Apple, but it is a nice looking lock screen. We have system settings redesigned. This is the one I didn't see in the previous video I did a couple months ago looking at the change in elementary OS, but apparently we have a lot easier to read and understand system settings. Things are it looks like a little bit easier to see and understand what's going on there, so that's pretty nice. Then here's your appearances. We can do dim it light. We can do the default. We can do a dark. We can do a default, or we can do a scheduled. There's the accent colors there as well. The App Center. Now, this is one of the changes that I'm going to be most curious about. So the App Center is going as Flatpak only. So they no longer are curating anything in their repository at all, kind of bringing this sort of like an immutable distro, although I haven't seen any indication that it's becoming immutable. So my concern with this is that what Elementary has done in the past, which I thought was the most egregious of their sins, when they went to doing Flatpaks, if you go to install a Flatpak, it would give you a scary looking warning that's like, this Flatpak was not curated by our team and it could do dangerous stuff and whatever else. The problem is it was giving those warnings on things like GIMP and LibreOffice, which are very highly reputable applications inside of the Linux ecosystem, both supporting their own Flatpak versions directly to FlatHub. There is nothing bad or dangerous about those, and they would give you this scary warning. Now, I'm hoping what they're doing is they're going to tie into the new Flatpak system, flawed though it is, and I agree their new Flatpak distribution, like their warning system, is flawed, but as long as they're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, this is good. But if I go into Elementary OS and they're only giving me Flatpaks, but they give me a scary warning trying to install GIMP, then this is the stupidest distro in the world. If, however, they go in and they bring it back in utilizing the new Flatpak security system, flawed though it is, if they're using that, perfect. Exactly what they need to be doing. So hopefully, the developers can look at that and say, yeah, maybe we don't need to put a warning in front of LibreOffice and GIMP. Now, if you put the warning on the unverified, I'm okay with that, but not with the verified applications, especially since they're doing not only, it sounds like they're definitely doing the FlatHub repo, but I think they're also doing their own App Center repo as well. So I think they'll have two sources to install Flatpaks, their own repo and FlatHub. So my guess is they might go back and put the scary warnings on anything from FlatHub. I don't know. We are going to have to see what happens. Now, they did work with getting Wayland to work, so it's going to be Wayland by default, but you can go back to X, but they had to build a new dock for this. But the new dock, it kind of, once again, resembles the modern Apple, but it is a nice dock if you like the Apple ecosystem. It is good and respectable. And so we do have the Wayland working. We do still have X, but Wayland will be the default. And then here's the multitasking with the new dock. So you can kind of see how that works, kind of bring it sort of in line with how Gnome is going to work there. So you can kind of see what's going on with that. Quick settings refinements, once again, borrowing a little bit from Gnome for this one. We have a screen reader. We have an onboard screen recorder for accessibility. You have a quick toggle for dark mode. You have quick toggles, it looks like, for the size of the icon, like the size of the font, and then your logout, system settings, and all of your settings options. So that's pretty nice there as well. So those are 8 things about the new Elementary OS 8. Yes, I will be having a look when Elementary OS 8 comes out, and I will be looking specifically to see how it manages those flat packs. It's still not my cup of tea, obviously, because I just personally don't like the UI, but it is still a very respectable distribution for what it is doing. And moving on, Hurricane Milton, of course, just hit. MX Linux was issuing some warnings that it could impact the updates. Now, the updates apparently on MX Linux are going to a central location, which might be a little dangerous. Now, the mirrors to download packages, those are global and on different networks. I didn't see an update here. Of course, the storm was downgraded by the time it hit landfall, and Florida's been doing a really good job with its recovery, so hopefully it's good. We do know that Rumble said that they had just a little bit of cosmetic damage, but they were reaching out. Rumble, of course, is also in the general vicinity of Hurricane Milton. But they did tell us that if you did try and do some MX Linux upgrades recently, it might have had some issues, mostly because of the hurricane, but I haven't seen an update on that, so hopefully it's all good. Maybe Run with a Dolphin will jump down and let us know things are okay or not. I don't know. Check the comments for that. And last and definitely not the least, the Gnome Foundation shakeup. So this one here gave me a little bit of a chuckle because the Gnome Foundation, of course, has been moving down this progressive pathway for a while, making hiring decisions based not on what is technically good, but what seems to be good from some of the current political agendas. And like most people utter the phrase "go woke, go broke" type of stuff, and Gnome ran into some problems. Now, they did battle off a couple of lawsuits from some patent trolls as well. However, they didn't really make reference to any of that inside of the crisis announcements that they had said, but effectively they are laying off 33% of their staff. They're asking for the community to volunteer to support the foundation instead of having to pay people for some basic tasks. And a lot of this boiled down to the fact that they hired not just a person who just wasn't specifically experienced, but they brought in as their executive director a professional shaman who's literally like a pagan casting spells shaman. Okay, we're talking about that. An artist and a herbal medicine maker as the executive director. For what reason? I don't know. They left owner after 9 months and left the place in utter shambles. Now, of course, Gnome did spend a whole lot of this last 9 months completely alienating half of their user base by simply banning and blocking everybody who mentions the Beetlejuice of Linux himself, Brian Lunduke. Brian Lunduke. Ah! All right. So, they spent a lot of resources, including banning a Manjaro GNOME developer for simply uttering the name of Tom Riddle himself, Brian Lunduke. Ah! And so they did that kind of stuff. They irritated a lot of people. That's going to cause some issues. We get some shakeups. Then you hire a shaman with no real experience as your executive director. What in the hell did you think was going to happen? Now, people I know, not to get political here, but people on the right tend to be bigger, more grown-up people than people on the left. It is a fact of life. If you go and watch Brian Lunduke's video about this, Brian Lunduke genuinely said, I will come in, I will donate 1 month of my time without getting paid, I will be an interim executive director, and I will steer you in the right direction. Even though they have completely come out against Brian Lunduke for no reason at all and alienated him to their community, he has still come in and offered to right their ship. They probably won't take him up on that offer because they seem to have gone insane, which is really bad because as much as Gnome is not my cup of tea, Gnome is on a technical level a good distribution, like a good system, and to be perfectly honest, we need to keep Gnome around. We don't want to see something like Gnome die and disappear into the ether and bring a lot of the enterprise Linux stuff with it. I want to see the Gnome Foundation succeed, whether or not I care to use the system on my systems intentionally or not. So the biggest problem here is, of course, is they didn't use a lot of their funds correctly. They didn't make good hiring decisions. And what ended up happening is they ended up having to lay off 30% of their staff, which is very sad. But hey, take Brian up on his offer, because he's got the knowledge, the experience, and the connections to make that type of stuff happen. And in all reality, I mean, that's probably what needs to happen. So there is our Linux news and our shakeup there. If you want to help support the channel, we do have a locals page. You can have a look over there at switchedtolinux.locals.com. We have our short story up there, and I did get the audiobook and the ebook for the new Code Red book on Patreon. I will be adding it to locals as soon as I can investigate the best way to put it up there for you guys over there on locals. And I'll be looking at putting it on the other supporter networks as well. But that is one of the places to go. The good thing about locals is when we release our short stories, you'll be able to read the first chapter of each of the short stories just as a free member to see if you want to read the whole thing. And so if you do, you can sign up as a member and read that. And we do make those audiobooks available as well. So there is over on locals, switchedtolinux.locals.com if you want to help the channel. With that, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.